All right, here we go. We continuing here. So this first question is, what is the most direct way of getting out of depression and healing one's heart? Now, what I did also today is I put questions together that actually all have the same answer as far as them being relative to each other. And so we're actually, by the end of this episode, caught up with all of the questions except for the ones that come through today. So again, this question is that what is the most direct way of getting out of depression and healing one's heart? Before you went on 100 or so DMT journeys, when you were taking the front door and became lucid, balancing your chakras, etc., what did you see? Again, there's a few questions here. There's 3. And then the final question is, I would love to hear you speak on nirvana. Okay? Now, all of those questions are related. Okay? And I'm going to explain to you, first of all, when I was able to continuously go through the front door before I started using any kind of substances, which I haven't in quite a bit of time. I was using breathing. Breathing was my first way into all of what I was exploring with myself when I was going into these other stages of self. Someone is asking, what did I see? Nothing. The real nothing. See, we think that nothing is like even something. It's like an absence of something, but nothing, it can't even be described really. So I'm going to try to bring you into this view because I also want to address this question. What is the most direct way of dealing with depression and healing one's heart? See, I noticed that there is this technique that we're continuously using in the process of healing to work ourselves through the pain. Okay. And while the world has constantly used this method, even psychologists use this kind of method, I present possibly another way, something that you can add to what is already here. I'm not taking anything away, but I present that we change our minds a bit as a mastermind about what you're really experiencing when you think you're going through depression or you think that you've been hurt, okay? By allowing you to first ask yourself the question, what if you could not feel anymore? Because all of these are all yin yang components. So to hate is indeed to know love. To be sad is indeed to know happiness. No matter how much you want to argue with it, no matter how much you want to kneel, fight out, be a baby about it, you want to find a planet that exists with only love because you just want to be loved in that energy for that, you just want to be loved. But then somebody loving you for 2 weeks on without end, and then now you don't like that no more. Now you just, you get turned off by it because we have a yin and yang thing. We have a 4 and a 7 happening here. So even based on the new moon may come through, and that same thing you loved, you now hate. You want them to leave out of the house and get away from you and all this, and your mood swings. Okay? So instead of trying to separate all these different emotions and figuring out how to get the ones that we prefer, why don't we test ourselves for one moment and say, what if you couldn't feel any of them? And of course, there would be a large majority of us here that would be like, man, you mean I wouldn't love Pet Snooki anymore? I wouldn't love my mom and my girlfriend or my wife, my husband. I wouldn't love my children anymore. I can't let that go. Right? And that would be the response. But yet, some have not necessarily seen or been able to comprehend that is nirvana. No elements have any more effect on you because now nothing exists anymore. There's no floor. There's no happiness. There's no sadness. And this is something that we have to get prepared for. It's not happening now. That's why I was saying that fools rush in. Enjoy your life, your sadness and your happiness. Because when you don't have any governors anymore, when you no longer have netaru, when you no longer have organs, you cannot feel any of this anyway. So no matter how much someone tries to get you into it, to get you happy or upset, you can go into neither when you reach nirvana. That's why it's generally the last stage of a person's existence. Like once you reach that stage, you're not even going to be on the planet. You're already sent a signal to the body that you're ready to gestate. I'm ready to metamorph. Now I got it. I got the full palette of love, hate, joy, richness, integrity, thievery. I got it all. And now the king of the pond must go back in the same box, and I'm ready to experience the unknown. See, those who are looking for another world that they're going to be able to predict what's going to happen there, you're just going to go into another you're going to go into another creation. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there are some that are actually seeking to go beyond the creations, to actually go into the infinite immortal field. And in there, the only way that was able to maintain and sustain itself that way is that the things that you're calling hatred and the things that you're calling joy and love do not exist there. The things that you're calling human bodies and animals and souls and spirits and all these different divisive forms that you've created in the created world don't exist there. And if you believe that it does, you are mistaken. Because if it existed there, then that would become just like this, and there would be no reason or importance or use for something like that. There's only two spaces. There's the worlds of division, and then there's the whatever you want to call it. It can't be put into a name that does not have all of that going on. And you may say right now, and this is kind of how you know where your growth is at. You may say right now, well, shoot, I don't know if I want to exist in a place that's without love. That sounds like this, and I can't feel anything. That sounds like a robot, right? That shows you how far you're away from opening up the door that you don't know what's on the other side, okay? And this would happen to me even in the lucid dreams, that I was given a choice first, that I would know what the experience was going to be. It would always appear as a very beautiful woman, like bad, like shut it down, like an 11. And I can either go run off with her and experience all the pleasures of that, or I could go through dingy number 2 door, which was always depicted and shaped and looked in a way that was not appealing. Almost to, like I said, when 9 reflects itself back to you to encourage you, just go run off with her. You know what's going to happen. That's the known. You're going to experience the pleasures and the joy of being with her. Or you could take door number 2, and we can't tell you what's going to happen in there. Who knows? And I can't say I took door number 2 every time. I'm not going to front with you here. But when I took door number 2, and this would always happen in lucid dreaming, when I took door number 2, I can't even articulate to you the type of experiences I would be having in door number 2. And you would think that I would always go to door number 2. And that wasn't the case either. Sometimes I'd just be like, man, I'm going with the known. And then other times, especially when I was fed up with what was ever happening in my environment, like, man, I got to get out of here. I got to leave here. Then door number 2 seemed to be more appealing. Okay? So this is what we're talking about here with spiritual growth in the path. Nirvana is ultimately a stage of unknown, because you load a whole different set of awareness and being and all that's foreign to this place. And then so when you're asking yourself, what is the greatest way to get out of depression and healing your heart, is to realize that at least you can be depressed. At least you have a heart that needs to be healed. Check yourself first to understand the value of what you already have. And then you can move on from there and start restoring happiness and then healing your heart, because you'll realize that all this is basically your choice. And without the depression and without the broken heart, there is no mended heart and there is no happiness. And you can lose the ideas of the neophyte that you can, like a buffet, only pick out the ones of the happiness and the joy and the riches and the pleasures and all that you want, without somehow accruing or gaining the attention of those opposing forces that are equally mated to that. And this is, again, sometimes what we hate about ourselves. That's why maximum knowledge pulls you out of self-hatred, which is a part of depression. Because you start even being able to pinpoint. It's like, let's not try to sit here and do this through a conversation. if I'm feeling a certain way, like, so what do I got a problem with? Is it my heart? Oh, well, that's Venus. So then I go to day number 6 day number 8. You go to day number 6 and then they're intrinsically linked together, but you would go to day number 6 and then you would find those correspondences of the things that you need to begin to mend that energy and resonate that energy properly. The right colors, the right sounds, the tones, the foods, the environment, and all that's there in cosmic energy, right? And you would bring that element back into balance, but you would know that it was that element. And that's the power of what you receive through this level of wisdom. You know, okay, if I'm experiencing this, this is more or less the planet that it's coming from. And then you're also able to see what planets are aids to it versus enemies, meaning that there are certain things that can only instigate the problem. And this is like, you're feeling depressed. And if you bring in, let's say number 8 is going to just tell you to suck it up already, in that, because 8's used to dealing with pain and can handle pain very well. So it's not like, number 6, get yourself together. It's more like, you haven't experienced anything. So that is generally sometimes seen to be an enemy, not as if they're fighting or conflicting. It is just that this is not going to produce the most ideal situation. Versus if the 6 then goes to number 2, which is always giving, always nourishing like a mother, it may then find in that number 2 the levels of repair that it needs to come out of the broken heart phase. So do you see what I mean? That's how this works. This is alchemy. All right. So now you get that it's all a gift to even be depressed. And when you start seeing it that way, it starts to remove depression.